The moment we launched this game, everything felt wrong. Not the kind of wrong you laugh at, like bad textures, weird glitches, or cheap little jump scares. No, this was the kind of wrong that hits you in the gut. The kind that makes the hairs on the back of your neck rise before anything even happens. The screen didn't just load, it pulsed. Static flickered like it was alive, crawling across the edges, and for a split second I swore I saw a face hidden in the noise. We thought maybe it's just a corrupted file, maybe the Fang game is unfinished, but then the title appeared, Shin Sonic, the final apocalypse. The words weren't just sitting there, they were glitching like they were burning into the screen, and then without us touching anything, the game whispered, "Welcome," not text. A voice, a deep, distorted voice that felt like it, came from behind me rather than the computer speakers. That's when I froze. My heart thumped so loud, I swear the mic could have picked it up. This wasn't just creepy, it was invasive. Like the game knew I was there, staring at it. I laughed nervously, trying to play it off, but in the back of my head, a thought kept scratching at me. This isn't just a game file. Something about it felt alive. The menu didn't even wait for us to click start. The options blinked out one by one until only play remained. My hand hovered over the mouse, and I said out loud, "This is such a bad idea." But of course I clicked. The screen dissolved into black, and suddenly we were standing in what looked like Green Hill Zone, only it was destroyed. The grass wasn't green, it was black, burned, lifeless. The sky dripped a deep crimson like it was bleeding out. Broken palm trees leaned at sharp angles, and the classic happy loops and bridges were gone, replaced with jagged stone and broken ground. At first it was silent, dead silent, no music, no wind, no rings, just emptiness. But then, faintly, we heard it. Static footsteps, crunching, like something heavy was moving just beyond the fog in the distance. My skin crawled. I leaned forward, squinting at the screen half, hoping it was just a graphical bug, but then the camera, on its own, started panning, slowly forcing us to look deeper into the mist, and that's when we saw it. A figure, small at first, crouched down, twitching violently like it was glitching between frames. Its movements didn't match the animation speed. Its body jerked forward, backward, sideways, all at once. My stomach sank. We hadn't pressed a single button. The game was doing this by itself. We held our breath as the figure lifted its head. And there, they were glowing, hollow white eyes. Not Sonic's usual friendly eyes, these were dead. Wide, unblinking, and then, in a motion so sudden it made me jolt in my chair, the figure snapped its head toward us. Straight through the screen I whispered, "Nope, nope, this is cursed." But before I could even joke about quitting, the game glitched violently. The audio screeched like metal grinding, and the figure was gone. Replaced with nothing but static. That silence, that stillness was somehow worse than seeing it, because we knew, deep down, whatever that thing was, it wasn't gone. And then the camera forced itself forward, slowly moving deeper into the corrupted Green Hill Zone. My hand was shaking on the controller. Every step echoed with this low, bassy thud, like footsteps weren't just in the game, they were around me. My pulse quickened. I could feel sweat gathering on my palms, and then the screen flickered again. For a fraction of a second we saw him, Shin Sonic, but not the Sonic we knew. His body was stretched, elongated like his bones were breaking, his smile carved far too wide, and his quills twisted upward like sharp blades. He didn't run, he didn't laugh, he just stared, and before we could even process it, he was gone again. That's when it hit me. The game wasn't about us controlling Sonic. It was about him controlling us. And trust me, what happened next? That's when everything truly went wrong. The silence didn't last long. Out of nowhere, the screen flickered again, and the entire zone seemed to shift. The colors bled together, reds smearing into blacks, and the camera suddenly dropped low, as if we were being forced to crawl through the ground itself. My chest tightened. The air in the room felt heavy, like the game was sucking the oxygen out. Then came the sound. Not footsteps this time, a faint, distorted hum. It reminded me of a broken music box, but slowed down, warped, and echoing like it was being played underwater. It started soft, almost harmless, and then slowly grew louder, closer. I gripped the controller tighter, every instinct screaming at me to stop, to exit, to pull the plug. But the game wasn't giving us that option anymore. The pause button, dead. Escape key, dead. Even Alt plus F4 wouldn't respond. We were trapped inside, forced to keep going. The camera pulled forward until the mist in the distance began to clear, and that's when I saw him. A silhouette, hunched over, twitching in sharp, jerky movements, like a marionette with tangled strings. His head snapped left, then right, then spun completely around before snapping back into place. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just creepy, it was wrong. Wrong in a way that made my skin itch. I whispered under my breath, "Please don't move. Please don't." And then, like it heard me, the figure froze. Perfectly still, its glowing white eyes pierced through the fog, and for a second, I swore it was looking directly at me, not the character. My heart hammered in my chest, every beat pounding in my ears. Then it happened. The screen distorted, colors ripping apart into static, and with a bone, cracking sound that made my stomach turn, the figure snapped upright and bolted toward us. I jumped in my chair, the controller nearly flew out of my hands. He wasn't just running, he was sprinting faster than anything I'd ever seen. His legs twisted unnaturally, his arms flailed at impossible angles, and every step he took glitched the environment around him. The ground shattered behind him, the sky warped. Even the HUD on the screen bled into static, and the worst part, he wasn't chasing Sonic. He was chasing me. The screen shook violently as if the game was struggling to keep up with his speed. I could feel my pulse climbing higher and higher, sweat dripping down my forehead as I scrambled to push the joystick, to run, to survive. The game threw me into a chase sequence. The camera locked forward, the path bending and twisting faster than I could process. Every time I glanced at the corner of the screen, there he was, a Shin Sonic, inches away, his jaw stretched open into a smile so wide it looked painful. I could almost hear the crack of his bones every time it opened wider. I swear, in that moment, I felt something cold behind me, like a draft of air brushing against my neck, even though the room was sealed shut. My heart was racing so fast I thought I'd pass out. And then the path split, left or right, 2 tunnels, each lined with jagged stone. I had seconds, maybe less, to make a decision. My brain screamed left, but my hand pushed right. The screen flashed. The world around me shook violently, and suddenly the ground beneath Sonic collapsed. My stomach dropped. We were falling, spiraling into a void of static, and when the screen cleared, we weren't in Green Hill anymore. We were in something else, something much, much worse. And trust me, what we found down there made the chase feel like child's play. The fall felt endless. The screen spiraled in static, the audio screeching like broken speakers tearing apart. I gripped my chair so hard my knuckles went white, waiting for the game to finally load us into something solid. And then, suddenly, impact. Sonic hit the ground with a crunch that wasn't cartoony, wasn't game-like. It sounded real, too real. I swear, for a second, I felt it in my chest like I had hit the floor myself. When the screen cleared, everything was upside down, literally. The ground stretched into the ceiling, rivers flowed backwards into the sky, and the horizon twisted like a painting melting in fire. My brain couldn't process what I was looking at. It didn't feel like a game anymore. It felt like some kind of broken nightmare someone had locked us inside of. And then I noticed them, Floating in the air, dangling like balloons caught in a breeze, were dozens of broken tails dolls. Their bodies lifeless, their heads tilted downward, fur torn apart like stuffed animals gutted and left to rot. For a moment, they just drifted silent, harmless. I whispered nervously, "Okay, maybe they're just scenery, just background creep." But as soon as I said it, every single doll's eyes snapped open. Bright red, glowing like hot coals, my breath caught in my throat. One of them twitched, another's arm jerked upward. And then, all at once, they began to move. Not toward Sonic, toward me. The camera zoomed in on their faces, one after another, each more twisted than the last, until I felt trapped, smothered, like I couldn't look away. The dolls began chanting, not words, not voices. It was like distorted recordings of laughter, layered hundreds of times, all playing backwards. It echoed in my headphones, bleeding into my skull until I had to rip one ear cup off just to keep myself sane. And then the game forced me to move forward. The dolls followed, twitching and jerking in unnatural bursts of speed. Their limbs snapped at sharp angles, their mouths opening far wider than they should. It didn't feel like dolls anymore. It felt like bodies. My palms were slick with sweat, the controller slipping as I tried to guide Sonic through the twisted landscape. The ground itself wasn't safe every few steps. Pieces of the earth would vanish, glitching into black holes that swallowed anything that touched them. And every time I stumbled too close, I swore I could hear whispers, voices begging for help from inside the void. I pushed forward, heart hammering, the dolls closing in faster and faster. Then, without warning, the screen froze. Everything stopped. Sonic stood still. The dolls froze midair, their eyes burning like spotlights. For a full 10 seconds, nothing moved. And then the game spoke, not text, not a sound effect, a voice, low, distorted, echoing like it came from the walls of my own room. It said, "Why did you choose this path?" I froze. My hand hovered over the controller. My mouth went dry. It wasn't directed at Sonic. It was directed at me. I laughed nervously, trying to shake it off, but my voice cracked. My friend whispered, did it just talk to you?" Before I could even answer, the voice came back, louder this time, rumbling through the speakers like thunder. "You made the wrong choice." The screen shattered into static. The dolls lunged all at once, their red eyes filling the screen until it was nothing but a sea of burning crimson. And then everything went black. No sound, no music, just silence, until the faint sound of footsteps returned. Closer, louder, and when the screen finally faded back in, Shin Sonic was waiting, smiling, patient. And what he did next made me want to rip the power cord straight out of the wall. When the screen flickered back to life, everything had changed. The world wasn't upside down anymore, it was broken. The ground cracked apart like shattered glass, floating in midair as massive chunks of land drifted in every direction. Rivers of static flowed upward into the sky, bending unnaturally, spilling into nothingness. The sky itself was splitting, jagged seams opening like someone was tearing reality apart with their bare hands. And right there, in the middle of it all, stood Shin Sonic. He didn't move at first, just stood perfectly still, his head tilted slightly like a predator sizing up its prey. His grin stretched impossibly wide, sharp teeth jutting from his mouth, each one glinting like broken glass. His body glitched with every breath, twitching like the game was struggling to render him. I swear, in that moment, he wasn't just a character on screen. He knew I was there, watching, breathing, afraid. The silence was unbearable. Then snap. The environment shattered again, and suddenly dozens of floating screens appeared in the sky, flickering with distorted images. At first, I thought they were just glitchy textures, but no, they were reflections of me. My webcam wasn't even on, but there I was, frozen, distorted, my own face staring back at me from the monitors in the game. My blood went cold, and then the voices returned, not the dolls this time. These were deeper, darker. They whispered over each other, layered and broken, like 100 mouths speaking at once. You don't belong here. You should have left. You shouldn't have chosen this path. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice cracked, and all I could manage was a weak, "This is so messed up." My chest felt tight, my breathing shallow, like the game was squeezing the air out of me. Then the ground beneath Sonic shook violently, forcing him into motion. I had no control. The game pulled me forward whether I liked it or not. The floating islands began collapsing one by one, crashing into the void below. Massive structures crumbled like paper, and in the distance I saw them. Thousands of those broken Tails dolls crawling on all fours across the shattered land, their glowing red eyes leaving trails of fire behind them. They weren't chasing anymore. They were worshipping, crawling toward Shin Sonic, bowing, twitching, clawing at the ground as if begging him for something. And then he finally moved. Slow at first, a single step, then another, each one heavier, louder, shaking the entire world like an earthquake. I couldn't tear my eyes away, but my gut screamed to stop, to look away, to not let him see me. But of course, it was too late. The camera snapped to his face, zooming in so close I could see every distorted detail of his eyes. They weren't just glowing, they were alive, swirling like vortexes, pulling me in. I felt dizzy, nauseous, like I was falling into them. And then, in that same guttural voice that shook my chest, he spoke again. "The end begins with you." The words echoed in my headphones, bouncing around my skull until I thought I'd go insane. My hands were trembling on the controller, but it didn't matter. I had no control. The game dragged me forward into the chaos whether I wanted it or not. The ground split apart in front of Sonic, revealing a pit of fire and static, roaring like 1,000 screaming voices. Out of the flames rose twisted versions of characters I recognized: Tails, Knuckles, Amy, all distorted, hollow-eyed, and broken. Their mouths hung open, drooling static, whispering in unison, "Join us." I couldn't breathe. My stomach twisted, and for the first time, I actually reached for the power button on my PC. I wanted out. But before I could press it, Shin Sonic lunged forward, filling the screen with his face, his jaw stretching open wider than humanly possible, static screeching so loud it rattled my desk. And then, silence, black screen, just one line of text burned into the center: "You can't escape." And I swear to you, as I stared at those words, my monitor flickered just once, and for half a second I saw my own reflection staring back, smiling. And what happened after that made me question if the game ever really ended. The black screen didn't last. Slowly, painfully, the text "You can't escape" dissolved into static, and the game forced itself back on. This time there was no menu, no level intro, just Sonic standing alone in a wide, empty arena. The ground was cracked like dried earth, glowing red veins pulsing beneath the surface, like the whole world was alive and breathing. Above us, the sky churned with storm clouds, lightning flickering through them, but the lightning wasn't white. It was blood red, and then I saw it. At the top of the screen, a timer, ticking backwards, 0100. My pulse spiked instantly. I don't know why, but deep down I knew whatever happened when that timer hit 0, I didn't want to see it. The air filled with static. Out of the shadows, broken shapes started to emerge: Tails, Knuckles, Amy. But not the characters I knew. These were corrupted, melted, their bodies twitching like they were stuck between frames. Their eyes glowed the same burning white as Shin Sonic's, and their mouths hung open as if they were screaming, but no sound came out. They didn't walk, they dragged themselves closer, jerking, crawling, glitching toward me. I panicked. I pushed every button I could, trying to move Sonic, trying to run, but the arena was sealed. There was no exit. Only them and the ticking timer, 00:45. The ground rumbled beneath me, cracks spreading out like spiderwebs, glowing brighter with every second. The voices returned, those same layered whispers from before, but this time they weren't random. They were chanting. Over and over, one phrase, the end begins with you, the end begins with you, the end begins with you. I couldn't take it. My chest tightened, and I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs. It felt like the voices were inside my head, drilling into my skull. 00:30, then the camera jerked violently, spinning upward into the sky, and there he was, Shin Sonic, towering, larger than anything else in the game, his body twisted and broken, his grin stretching wider than his head, his arms dangling long enough to drag across the ground. He didn't walk toward us, he hovered. Each glitchy pulse of static brought him closer and closer, his eyes glowing brighter until the whole arena was bathed in their light. 00:20. The corrupted characters fell to their knees, bowing toward him, twitching violently as if worshipping. Their mouths stretched open wider, until their jaws cracked with a wet snap. They screamed in distorted static that pierced through my headphones, forcing me to rip one side off just to keep my sanity. 00:10. The screen zoomed in on Shin Sonic's face, filling every pixel with his grin. His teeth were jagged, crooked, bending in directions no jaw could ever allow. His eyes swirled like vortexes, and the longer I stared, the more I felt my vision blur, like he was pulling me into them. I whispered, "Please stop, please just stop." My voice shook, my hands were trembling on the controller. 00:05, the whispers stopped, the arena fell silent, even the static cut out, and then Shin Sonic spoke. "It ends now." 00:01, the timer froze, my entire room went dark. Not just the game, my monitor, my keyboard, even the lamp beside me. All of it shut off at once. And then in the pitch black through my headset I heard it, breathing slow, heavy, right behind me. I didn't dare turn around, and when the screen finally flickered back to life, what I saw made me wish the game had never turned back on. When the screen came back, my stomach dropped. Sonic wasn't there anymore. The arena wasn't there either. Instead, the game showed my room. I froze. My jaw actually dropped, and for a second, I couldn't even breathe. It was my setup, my desk, my monitor, even the chair I was sitting in, rendered perfectly inside the game. Only one thing was different. Sitting in my chair, staring directly into the screen was me, but not me. This version of me was pale, twitching, with those same hollow white eyes I'd seen in Shin Sonic. It smiled, slowly, painfully, stretching wider and wider until it nearly split its face. I whispered, "That's not me, that's not me," over and over like some kind of broken record, and then Shin Sonic appeared behind me. His towering shadow filled the screen, his grin glowing brighter than the room itself. He leaned down close to the distorted version of my face and whispered something I'll never forget. "You are mine now." The screen erupted into static so violent it nearly blew out my headphones. My heart was racing, pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. I slammed the keyboard, the mouse, everything, trying to exit, but it didn't matter. The game had locked me in, and then silence. The static cleared, and for a brief, terrifying moment, the screen showed only one line of text. "Look behind you." My stomach dropped into nothingness. My hands froze. I couldn't move. I didn't want to move. Every instinct screamed not to. But of course, curiosity wins. It always does. I turned, and thank God, nothing was there. Just my empty room. No Shin Sonic. No pale version of me. Just silence. I laughed, the most nervous laugh I've ever let out in my life, and turned back to the screen only to see Shin Sonic's face filling every pixel, smiling so wide I could see his teeth curving upward. Into his own eyes, the screen went black. My PC shut down, and that was it. No credits, no menu, no restart. Just silence. I sat there in the dark for a full minute, frozen, listening for any sound in the room. My heart was still racing, my hands shaking so badly I had to wipe the sweat off the controller, and then I laughed again, but this time out of pure disbelief. Because whatever that wasn't just a game, there was something else, something alive. So yeah, he's Shin Sonic, the final apocalypse. Safe to say we're never opening that game at night again, but hey, if you want me to suffer even more, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, and maybe, just maybe, I'll open it one more time. Though if I disappear after that, you'll know exactly who took me.